You're thinking about buying a house and you're looking into the requirements. What exactly is earnest money, and is it always required? That's what we're talking about today, so let's go. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Bryn and I'm a real estate agent here in Eugene, Oregon. Today I'm going into detail about earnest money and how it works. But I have a playlist where I provide an overview of the home buying process in general. If you missed those videos, you can find the link right here. But today we're digging into the earnest money and whether it's a requirement for buying a home. First off, let's discuss what earnest money is. Earnest money is the deposit that the buyer makes on the home sale as an act of good faith. They are basically showing the seller that they are serious about purchasing the home and that they intend to close the deal. Once the offer is accepted by the buyer and seller and all of the terms are agreed upon, the buyer typically has 3 business days to deposit the earnest money into a trust or escrow account with a neutral third party. The account can be held by the escrow company, a real estate agency, or an attorney. It is not a good idea to give an earnest money deposit directly to the seller. For sale by owners, I'm talking to you. So, how much is deposited for the earnest money? Well, it's really up to the buyer and what kind of offer they'd like to present. Generally, the standard rule of thumb is 1% of the purchase price, but it really depends on the situation. What is the market like? How competitive is the market? If the market is ultra competitive, then a larger deposit can strengthen the offer and show the seller that you're serious and less likely to walk away from a deal without a good reason. If the buyer is shorter on funds and is risk averse, a smaller deposit would be a better idea. But in that case, the offer isn't as strong. Now, let's touch on ways that the buyer can get their earnest money refunded in a deal without penalty. Keep in mind that every contract is different, and I've seen sellers accept offers only with a non-refundable earnest money deposit. So make sure you have a good understanding of the risk that you're taking at the beginning of the deal. Generally speaking, there are 2 main ways that the buyer can walk away from the purchase and still get their earnest money back. The first way is in the inspection period. The inspection gives the details on the condition of the property and helps the buyer decide if they're comfortable moving forward in the transaction. If for any reason the buyer decides that there is just too much work that needs to be done on the home, they can walk away without penalty. The other scenario where the buyer can walk away is if the financing falls through during the transaction. The buyer will forfeit their earnest money and the seller will keep it if the buyer has a change of heart and decides to simply walk away just because they changed their mind. So what happens to the earnest money at the end of the transaction? It will go towards the buyer's closing cost and down payment of the loan. The lender will take the deposit into account when calculating the final cash needed to close at the end of the deal. I've even seen deals where the buyer ended up getting a check back at closing because their deposit ended up being more than their fees and down payments required. The bottom line is yes, the earnest money is required, but there's some flexibility in how much you put down and how much of a risk you actually take when purchasing. Please feel free to post any questions in the comments below. I work hard to stay connected. If you like this video, please make sure to check out the other videos on my channel. I hope you found this information helpful and have a better understanding of how the earnest money deposit works. I'd love to have you subscribe to my channel and join me for my next video. Thanks so much for watching. 4 foot? Like 4 foot in a soccer game? If the buyer is shorter, why would that matter? For sale by owners, I'm talking to you.